Hi, welcome to my video. So this video I'm going to be talking about, well, some things here about when I went back to KDE, just to test it out how stable it is. KDE been updated to what, 6.0.5, and also Linux kernel on Arch has been updated to 6.9.2, and yeah, and also I'm using the beta drivers for NVIDIA on this system here, which is version 5.5.5, 42 something. Let's see here. 5.5.42.02. So, yeah. So, let me talk. So, I had some problems here with KDE with the system tray. Like these context menu where you click on like certain things and like the drop down menu would not show the context menu. It would function working, but it just would look invisible. But if you would see like this little like resize icon, and if you try to resize it, then the menu will come back to normal. But that was the way how I fixed it. This was a problem or a bug among other distributions. Was not just on Arch Linux, but this is a KDE bug in general. But since 6.0.5, I noticed that this bug has been fixed because it's no longer there anymore. Also, me having problems with the paste, like copy and paste, when it would like collect history, and then you clear the history and you want to paste something, it would not paste anymore. Like it would let you copy, but when you came to paste, and it also could have been me. You know, like I could have just probably wasn't copying the text, because I have a bad habit of just highlighting things. Like I'll just select a text and I use my third mouse button. This is something I do a lot on Unix, like way in the past. So it's kind of like a bad habit. So like maybe I think that I copy it, but I didn't. I just selected the text. So it could be maybe it was a me thing. That was the problem with this copy and paste thing, and had nothing to do with KDE. But I noticed that since I am selecting, I'm pushing copy in the context menu, it is pasting. So it's working. It's neither they fixed something, or it was an actual bug, or it was basically me. But I think there was a little bug, because I know I was copying it and it wouldn't let me paste it in Discord. So it was a little problem. But I mean, I shouldn't really get too mad about it. But anyways, of all things, it works good now. I've been using it on my B-Link. I've been using it on this PC as well, and I have no problem whatsoever. So what else? KDE. I gotta say, man, this is a very nice desktop environment. I like it because it's very consistent. When it comes to applications, like even with GTK applications, like this desktop environment is very consistent. I don't hate GNOME. I think GNOME is good for a lot of things, but I really am annoyed by it. I have to add a lot of extensions to actually make it a functional desktop. And I don't think it should be called a desktop environment if it's not going to have desktop environment features. I'm sort of saying like this is not a desktop environment, because desktop environments have features, and GNOME does not have a system tray or desktop icons or a maximize or minimize button. Okay, so if you want to call that a desktop, go for it. But to me, I consider it's more of like a tablet UI for touchscreen computers, or a computer that has touchscreen. It's made for handhelds. Like GNOME is a mobile OS. It's a mobile UI. It's definitely not designed for desktops. It used to be. GNOME 2 is totally a desktop environment for big box desktop computers. But the GNOME shell now, like since GNOME 3 and now, I think GNOME's like I'm gonna be honest, man. Like I I like the workspace switcher. Don't get me wrong. I think the workspace flow in GNOME is really good, and that's the only thing I find that's good in GNOME. Other than that, I think GNOME is not really a good desktop environment. That is a personal experience. I do brag up GNOME a lot. I think I'm just having copium and trying to find this sweet spot desktop, for Linux, because I think this is a problem with many Linux users, is that there's not one desktop environment that we can say like, yeah, this is great. I know a lot of people talk about Cinnamon. I think Cinnamon was good back in the day when GNOME 3 was a mess. Because GNOME Shell, when it came out, like when it left the old GNOME 2 phase and it went to GNOME Shell, I was excited about it. Like, oh, this is cool. This is new technology. This is awesome. And it was buggy. It was buggy. Pretty much really buggy desktop environment. And a lot of like developers that have their distribution based on GNOME desktop, it was a bloody mess, man. And that's why you'll see like the Mint team, they made Cinnamon. Cinnamon was not that great. I remember using Cinnamon at first as well. It was pretty terrible. I remember the first Cinnamon desktop on Linux Mint back in the day, and it was not that great. But they did improve Cinnamon a lot. But the old Cinnamon, like the original Cinnamon, like when they were just building up Cinnamon, it was pretty interesting. It was just as buggy as GNOME. Actually, I think GNOME Shell was actually a lot better than the original Cinnamon. But Cinnamon has evolved to become a very good desktop environment. But the thing about Cinnamon is that it only supports GTK 3. I don't see it supporting GTK 4. That's the same reason I don't use XFCE 4, because a lot of it supports GTK 3, which is becoming legacy. And I think they're not bad desktop environments, but a lot of them do not work in Wayland as well. And Wayland will be probably taking over, the display server in Linux. So I think desktop environments need to adapt. I know XFCE 4 is, they're giving it some Wayland support, but it's taking some time because it's been a while. Because I like XFCE 4. I think it'll probably be like my second favorite desktop environment. As much as I used to complain about XFCE 4, I actually think XFCE 4 is really great because it's another good desktop environment. It's kind of like GNOME, but it's like the GNOME that we want, because it's very highly customizable. I like XFCE 4. I just don't use it because it's don't have Wayland support. But I think XFCE 4 it's a really good desktop environment. And I wish that they have it fully support for Wayland. It will eventually when they push Wayland more and more with Linux, and I could see people are gonna want to make their desktop environment work on Wayland because they probably won't have any choice. I know Alex QT has ported their desktop environment to Wayland, which is cool. I actually used to use Alex QT. It's quite a good little small trimmed down version of KDE, but I still do prefer KDE. I love KDE. I think KDE is a great desktop environment, but I think I wouldn't mind Alex Qt as well, because it's pretty simplistic as well. Because the way I use KDE, I use it pretty much if it was an Alex Qt kind of desktop, because I really like things minimal. As you may see, like you look at my panel, like I used to have a dock in the past. I used to put all this other stuff, but I realized like I like things minimal. I've always been a really minimal person. Like I always used to use OpenBox, and I used to have it very simplistic. Like I used to have a lot of things simplistic. I used to be a very heavy DWM user. I used to be a heavy awesome WM user. I use a lot of these things, and I kept it very basic and keep it simple. I mean, I always like basic stuff. Like I use TWM, I erased that, and I used to use MCWM. I used MWM, which is motif. window manager, and I like basic. I don't like things that is basic. There's no option. I like things that is basic and just simplistic. I like having screen real estate. I realize that docks and all this other panels on your screen, it looks cool. It makes it look all futuristic, and like, yeah, cool. Linux can do a lot of things. It's fun. There's a lot of eye candy and a lot of just toys. They call that, or the old timers they call it, toys for your operating system. But it's just bloated stuff. You don't need it, which is kind of true. It's just distraction and stuff. So I realized having a panel and the start menu on your system tray, have it like the system tray has a built-in where you can mount stuff. Well, it doesn't show anything because there's nothing mounted. But when you have something mounted onto your system, it will show like a little mount icon. Like on my B-Link, it shows my Pixel 8a is mounted to the system. As well, I did got a pretty nice white color Pixel 8a. Man, if you guys are thinking of getting a new cell phone and you're strictly Android users, I would recommend an Pixel 8a. It's a very nice, very, very, very nice device. I love it. Nice size, 6.1 inch screen. It's just a very good device. It is a little bit pricey, but if you guys can get this on a good deal, man, it's a good phone. Very good phone. I really love it. Anyways, that has nothing to do with this video, but like when I have it mounted, like it shows like a mount icon, and it does have a mount icon, and also it has you could add like a little trash widget, and it actually blends in with the panel. Because when you make your own dock for KDE and you add the trash bin, I find this like icon looks out of place on the dock. It doesn't show the actual icon of the icon pack. It shows what you see like in a system tray. So I just put it like this because it looks more consistent, and it does the same function. Like when it's full, like the little trash bin will be fat, and it'll indicate that it needs to be empty, or evaluate it to see if you want to keep some files that you deleted by accident. Maybe you didn't want to, maybe need it back, you know what I mean? But anyways, so yeah. So I really like KDE a lot. Like I put the panel on top because I do like I'm always looking on like the top right hand corner of my screen. I'm like, so used to like having like always have a desktop that always have a top panel. So I'm always usually looking at the clock on that area, and like I've never seen the time in the bottom here, even though I do use Windows a lot as well, and I should be used to that. But I do use probably Linux a lot more than I do with Windows, and that's another thing. I'm actually really starting to debate. Like I want to take out Windows on my B550A. Cause my B550A is strictly just a Windows PC because I do want to run all my games. And games work probably slightly better on Windows because games on Steam are actually designed for Windows. And but I'm not saying like Linux game is bad, because Linux game is really good. I play a lot of games on Linux, and it runs a lot of my games, and it runs it really well. Like I don't get me wrong, but what I'm trying to say is that just the like Windows, I don't know. I'm thinking probably just taking it off and put Arch Linux on this system as well, because I really like Arch Linux a lot. Like I was like thinking about trying out Nix OS, and I was doing some research about it. I mean, I could probably use Nix OS and understand the whole thing. I actually basically do like understand like the majority of the system. But the philosophy of Nix OS is very, very much away from what an actual Linux desktop. It's kind of like Atomic Desktop, like what KDE, well, like what Fedora is doing with some of their snapshot, like Silverblue, stuff like that, Atomic Desktop. So like Nix OS is very similar in that regards. They're very similar systems. It's like an immutable system. I mean, I think the idea is good. It sounds good out of the box, but I still prefer like Linux to be Linux, and I like Arch Linux because it keeps the like it's just I'm used to having a package manager, and working with a package manager. I know NextOS is all like with a configuration. It is basically a package manager altogether. It's like it's all together. Like it's your system. You have a configuration file. You have home manager. It seems quite interesting kind of desktop or system, but to me it's like, well, I'm gonna stick with Arch Linux. I was gonna put Gen 2 on my other, because I have Windows on a hard drive. Like I have like 2 hard drives on my computers, and I have like 1 hard drive with Windows on 2 box. And I want to replace Windows because I don't want to be on Windows anymore. And I was thinking of putting Gen 2 back on to replace Windows, but I'm thinking like, well, I like Gen 2, but like they still have KDE 6 mask, and I think that they should unmask it. I mean, you can, but I rather just not do that. I rather just I don't understand why it's still masked. KDE is actually quite stable. I don't know if when they're going to unmask it, but for a system that's kind of roll and release, you would think that they would run KDE on it, KDE 6, I mean, on it. But anyways, I could complain about a lot of things, but I like Arch Linux, and I only need to use one Linux system, so I'm just gonna keep Windows on the other hard drive. I'm just gonna leave it there, because who knows, I might need Windows in the future. But for the most part, I use Linux, and I love Linux, and I mean, I don't hate other operating systems. I don't like a lot of things what Windows is doing. I don't like where the direction is going. Like I don't like recall and all that AI bullshit. I don't like it. And like Mac OS is a good system, but there's a lot of things I don't like about Mac OS. Like it's very locked down for one thing, but I do love like BSD Unix, and I think Darwin's a really good good Unix system, and that's one thing I like about Mac OS. But I mean, the interface is pretty nice too. I find Mac OS has a nice interface. It makes sense for them to have a dock and all because it's based on Next Step, and that's always been a part of what Apple computers were. But like to put that all on Linux, to me, I just find it's kind of stupid because it's not Apple, and it's not Windows, and I think that like having a very highly customized Rice desktop is what makes Linux unique and what makes a Linux look to it. You know what I mean? Because that's what Linux is all about: is customization and freedom. And I think that making your desktop looking like Mac OS or Windows is just, I don't know. It's like you use Linux to get away from these operating systems because Linux is better because it's open source, it's free now. But it's not 100% secure either. It's not. But you gotta be careful weighing the operating system, really. Just be careful in general. But anyways, so yeah, I just want to say I've been using KDE with the new NVIDIA drivers, and it's working really good. I don't notice any flickering, any bug whatsoever. Like it's been a very stable thing. I was gonna try out KDE 6.1 because the beta is out, and you can actually put it on Arch Linux. And if you put KDE unstable repository into pacman.conf, but I was like, it's coming out next month in a few weeks. It's probably about 2 or 3 weeks. It should be out stable. So I mean, I'm just gonna wait. Like if the beta was out a month ago, sure I would have tested it out, but 3 weeks before it's gonna become stable, or at least release. I think that I'll just wait till it comes out. I don't need to go on 6.1, and they just dropped down 6.0.5, and it's been actually pretty stable. So I don't really need to be on it because I'll just wait till it gets updated. I like the way it is now. It works good, and I'm happy with it. But overall, I love KDE. I think it's a great desktop environment. As much as I complain about it, this is actually my favorite like system, my favorite GUI desktop system on Linux. And the more I use KDE, the more I love it. And also, like, I really like KDE 6 a lot. I think that this is the best system I ever used on Linux. Like, it's the best desktop I ever used on Linux. And I really find it's very, very awesome because you can do a lot with it. And I love color schemes. Believe it or not, I love the default look of KDE, like window box. I just love the default. And I love their color scheme options. I love to just customize. Like, I like to just have the default GUI with the color scheme that you love, and I like that how it's consistent among all your applications. Like the Kate editor and everything else. Like it all puts the same color scheme, and I love that a lot. Even with your console terminal. But I don't use console terminal. I use KDE terminal because I think KDE terminal is a lot better. And yeah, I just think it's better, to be honest. And so yeah, I just find KDE terminals great. And it's because like it shows like your catnip looks a lot better. Like if you use console and you use catnip on it, like you have like a picture, it doesn't look good with console. So I don't use console. I use KDE because KDE has a better way of. I just like KDE better. And but anyways, that's just personal taste. But yeah, that's basically my video. I just wanted to like talk about how much I like KDE, but like it's also been a very stable. Like from the time like I was having a lot of bugs with KDE, I wasn't really having too much bugs, but whatever that was bothering me a few times. Like when it left KDE, I was kind of frustrated with it. But being back on when I went back on GNOME, I don't hate GNOME. There's a lot of things I like about GNOME. Like I do like the workflow and workspaces. I think it's great. But there's a lot of things I don't like GNOME, and you all know and you all heard me talk about GNOME, how much the reason why I don't like it, and it's probably the same reason why a lot of people don't like it, because a lot of features are being missed or pulled out of the system. And I just don't get what GNOME's doing, the GNOME team. But I like KDE because of I like having features, and I find KDE is getting more stable, and it's actually maturing a lot more. And I see that it's getting better. And I know people have like bugs or like there is a lot of bugs with KDE, but I'm just saying like me going back on KDE and using it for a week or two, I will say that it's been a good experience and it's been working really well. I've not been having any issues whatsoever. Even on the NVIDIA PC, like everything works good, especially with the beta drivers. Like I realize like how great it works and how great KDE has been working out for me, and I'm really impressed with it. GNOME, I'm not too impressed with it. I think GNOME needs to put a system tray back in their system. It needs desktop icons. It needs a visible dock or panel. You need to customize it. Like I don't like their shell. Like it's all like integrated, and you can't move the top panel to the side or to the bottom, like without having extensions to do that for you. And I think that it's not customizable as much, and I think that it reminds you of Windows 11 where you can't do the taskbar. It's just a shell, kind of like Mac OS is like that too. It's very like it has like a very proprietary like state of mind, corporate kind of thing. GNOME just doesn't feel like Linux at all. It doesn't have that open source freedom to it or the customization to it without having extensions to make it the way you want it to be. And I think it's just a stupid way of using a desktop environment. I think KDE really aced it. It does everything what you need. It have all the tools you need. It has everything. Like if you don't like this option, it gives you the option to set it the way you want it. And I love that about KDE. I think KDE is just overall like I complain about KDE a lot and not realize how great it is. Like there's a lot of good things about KDE that I can just go on about and talk about and rant about. There's so much good stuff about KDE. I love it. And I do like XFCE 4 as well. I want XFCE 4 to have full Wayland support because I think XFCE 4 is great. And I think that in the future, like instead of me having a GTK kind of like desktop like GNOME, I'll probably just go over to XFCE 4. But I want to see Wayland support with that desktop environment. But I do like XFCE 4. I wish that they had more like I wish they used more like with GTK 4 toolkit instead of 3. I wish they can upgrade that or update it. Because a lot of people, they mentioned Mint. Mint's a great desktop and all that. I don't like Mint. I think Mint is an ugly looking desktop environment, and I think it doesn't make sense anymore because it's just Mint. Mint's not that great, and the Cinnamon desktop is bleh. I don't know. You guys might hate me for that, but I don't like Cinnamon. I never did. I never like when I say like desktop environments I do not talk about or complain about is because I don't care for them. That's one of them. Like you guys never hear me talk about Cinnamon, but I see people talk about it in my comments. But I might get attacked for this, but I don't like Cinnamon. Okay, personally, it's a personal thing. If you guys like it, great, use it and like enjoy it. I'm glad you guys found a desktop environment that you like. I love KDE. I think it's great for me, and I know not everybody likes KDE. I do. I love it, but I ain't gonna hate you for not liking KDE. That's your personal opinion. That's your choice. Just like me, I don't like Cinnamon. I'm not really a big fan of Cinnamon. I never was. Okay, don't hate me for that. I just don't like it. Okay, that's just a personal thing. I'm not saying Cinnamon is a bad desktop environment. I just don't like it. I think it looks old school. It's to me. I don't think we need it. Back then it was useful because GNOME Shell was a mess, but GNOME is a lot better now. Like GNOME 46 is a very stable system. I'll give it that. Like GNOME nowadays is stable. It works really well. It does, but I don't like it because it's missing a lot of features. It is not really customizable without extensions. The reason why Cinnamon exists because GNOME 3 was in bad shape when they introduced the GNOME shell and like in the GNOME 3, like it was really rocky, man. It was bad. It's good now, but when it first released, it was it was pretty bad. That's why Cinnamon existed. And but nowadays I don't think Cinnamon is really something. I mean, it is good for keeping it Mint. If you like Mint, you like using Cinnamon desktop, go for it. Like it, awesome. If you like it, great. I personally don't like Cinnamon. Never been really a big fan of Cinnamon. I never really care for it. I use it a little bit in the past, but I don't really care for it. Anyways, guys, have a good one. Thanks for the watch. Cheers.